He was there. And then down at the bottom of that page, where the motion vote, after Vicky's name, put in an I. Vicky, make sure I got them all, okay?
Well, I'm not sure, you know, under the minutes, where it says Chair Strauss made a motion about the December 17th,
Mhm.
and then everyone's motion,
Yeah, you
Yeah, I
abstained on that
abstained.
one because you weren't there.
I just
for the
wanted to
second.
make sure that it was 6-0.
Yep,
That is,
6-0, one abstained.
5-6, yeah, okay,
So
yeah.
everybody turn to page 5.
Now, you got the one at the very bottom?
Yep.
Okay.
Page 5, right in the middle of the next budget meeting, instead of rain, put snow. Wish it was rain, but, well, you never can tell.
I don't want to raise.
And then on the motion vote on the bottom of it, add an I to Vicky Kirkwood.
Was she here?
Yeah, for that one too. So I'll make a motion to approve the January 29th minutes as amended.
I'll second.
Rhodes second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify aye and nay.
Christine, aye.
Mr. Mac, aye. Kirkwood, aye.
Rhodes aye.
Kristen, aye.
Regal aye. Southside. Is that the one? There are no petition warrant articles. They were due the 7th. We didn't get any in the office, so we don't have no additions from that. And everybody has an updated budget public hearing package in front of you. Hope you had a chance to add in your little notes that you had on the written one. So there is a new sheet there. You'll notice there's a couple of small minor changes I made on 3 pages, but you'll see those handwritten in when we go through. And after we're all done with this, any other changes that come with it be finalized, sent to the full committee, and then I'll send it to Caitlin so she has it for the next budget season. Okay, and as we go over the budget sheets, I remind everybody to take out your answer package, follow through with me, do a backup with me, if there's any questions. And if there are any questions, I suggest you write it in the answers, because you may see the same questions at the town meeting. So if there's some additional questions besides what we have written, I suggest you write it in on that, or someplace where you can have it handy and note, just in case you get the same question at the town meeting. Chris, Chuck, I got copies, you guys if you want them. Need your copies? You can grab this.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, we got about 6 or 8 minutes before the meeting, right?
Yeah, we do.
See one.
So we'll see how long the budget meeting goes. And after the budget meeting, we'll start into the admin stuff that we have. We'll see what we have for time. If not, we've got booked Wednesday next week at 6 PM. We could possibly do that to finish up all the admin stuff for the close of the year. I mean, there'd be no other budget. Nothing's gonna change after this meeting, after this hearing, so we'll be closing up all the administrative stuff. We'll just see how we do at the end of this meeting, how late it is, if we decide we wanna spend another hour, hour and a half closing everything up, or we wanna just end it and call it a night, and we'll pick it up on Wednesday next week. So everybody can have that in mind as we go through. Okay, who just came in? Can I have your names, who came in, please?
Hi, Mark Wood.
And Mary St. Pierre.
There is copies there, did you get those in the way in, copies of the budget
Yes.
sheets?
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Anybody who don't wanna keep them, please put them back on the pack, and that way they will have them for the, town meeting if anybody wants them. And we've got about 5 minutes before the official time to start the hearing. We can't start until right at 5:15. Hey, Ruth. Ruth what?
I'm good with first names, but not last. Ruth, your last name? O'Neill.
That's because more people.
I definitely need hearing aids.
There's a good place in Wolfboro that,
I already got a warning.
Oh, okay.
That's where I went.
Did you?
Yeah.
Up by the town hall?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah. Jessica.
Younger woman.
Yeah. Yeah, took it over from my grandfather. Yeah.
That's where you go?
Yeah, that's where I just went. Yeah. Oh, first I went to Maine Med, and specialist there, and then said I'll go over here to get him, over the maintenance.
Just look them up to your phone, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nice to go to bed and read or something like that, but this is the.
I don't know, I'm gonna find out. We'll see how that goes. Kyla, you got a box on the table for you, Ratha?
Thank you.
She said the note's there.
Alright.
She said thank you.
Oh,
I don't know what you did, but she is happy with your help.
are we gonna- We're all waiting, come on, read it.
In case the money.
Out loud.
Probably cupcake.
It looks like it's cookies. They look delicious.
Well, did you get everybody's name?
I
Sure.
believe so,
Sure.
yes.
No, don't do it.
Well, I'm glad to see everybody here instead of shoveling.
Yeah, tomorrow morning.
Unfortunately, we're gonna be doing it again. I hate to tell you that. Jeez, I'm telling, I don't know about you, but I'm getting sick of this shoveling stuff.
It's gotta be worse in Green Bay though, so think about that.
Not if you stay indoors.
Okay.
Does that apply anywhere?
Well, it depends. What you got for a house?
That's true. It's the ice, it's the ice.
Yeah, I hate the ice, yeah.
Had to clear some snow off my back deck. It was like a wedding cake. Cake, ice, cake, ice.
I'll never forget the first time I heard that sound of snow coming off the barn. I didn't know what it was, freaking out.
And December, was it December, January, when we left here, we went home. I get out to kick some snow and sleet off my truck. The driver's a sheet of ice. Boom. Down, whacked myself on the running boards, and right down the driveway.
Oh, man.
Laid there for a while. Crawled back up to the truck and then, oh my
You didn't
God.
say it. Help, I can't get up. You know?
I better get up because my wife wasn't coming up to pick me up.
Lost it.
He slips and falls.
Probably figures you're a lost cause of his wife.
Oh, yeah, he's like, what the heck, we give him a share, we're good.
Yeah, yeah.
Where the egg was?
The egg went right into his eye. He doesn't have a black eye from the egg. He was hysterical.
So you cracked them all up?
I'll just remind everybody that we are recording the meeting, okay?
Can I ask a
So,
question now? Could I ask a question later, is my question now?
yes, you can ask a question later. As we go through, we go through each bite of the sheet, we expect people to ask at those points.
Thank you for.
We'll go through the whole
Thank you for
procedure
the
as we go.
clarification.
What's your question gonna be, Jim? Just so we can be ready.
Find out later.
I haven't even got this library one for Sunday. I'm trying to-
So you're happy snow's pushed away? They'll fill back in.
Five minutes. We're not doing bad.
That clock is really,
Yeah, that clock is wrong, isn't it?
well, we don't have it in the budget for those clocks.
4 minutes.
Well, we have technology that you put up on the big screen behind you.
This one. BT, you hear that?
Show a clock and
Put a clock
Put a
back
big
here.
clock up on a big screen so
Oh,
we
yeah.
can have a time and
Noonday clock.
Projection or,
time. Make it look like a schoolhouse clock. What's that?
projection or LED?
I'll make it out of Lego for you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's even better.
I'm not losing.
Don't worry,
Can you get
I'll make it
movement
green and
with
yellow. I'll make it green and yellow for
Can
you.
you get movement, make it out of that? Yeah? Put the internals of a quadrant into it?
Yeah, and I'll be Lego.
Yeah,
It's possible, it's big.
really?
Buddy of mine made like a full-size grandfather clock. It's pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Workable?
Yeah.
Really? Wow, that's pretty cool. Time to be paid.
Oh, and yeah. And glue. Yeah, you glue it. I like that.
No, I was on there.
That's cheap, isn't it, if you glue it?
Is that after you talked to, after you talked to? Is that the reason?
Yeah, I knew that was true. Kidding from me.
Because of what you guys,
Yeah, the last time.
Oh, really?
but that's the reason you did it. I don't know,
I have one of those blue ones, Tyler.
wish I had one.
This is all right. Well, it's still. Keep me on my toes.
Not a cheap. Just remember, Hooper drives the boat.
Later if you wanted to have it. Yeah.
Right? Hooper drives the boat.
The whole process is.
Oh, you're supposed to. Start before. Well, that would be start before.
Cut it, great. Still watch, probably watch at least once a year.
It's 50th anniversary.
Oh,
Oh, Dana, please.
oh, is that all good?
Yeah, if you don't mind. Good news, only 2 minutes.
50th anniversary.
We get them every holiday.
Oh, starting? Yeah. Open that sucker up.
It's like silence.
You gotta get the chocolate.
Silence is golden, right, Steve?
Exactly.
We just got two big gift baskets, two from the new, Next Step Community Services that went in on, I never visited them the other day. They gave us huge gift baskets.
Oh, really?
They gave all sorts of stuff.
We're getting well fed.
Yeah, there's a lot of like drinks, hot drinks, coffee.
Those benefits?
What's that?
So we can cut some of your benefits down?
Unlimited coffee is nice. I like my health insurance.
So you are getting that.
Huh?
You are getting it. Susan? You know that one.
Yeah, I really did.
Yeah.
Walk the same tracks out.
Okay, we only have 1 minute. We're still recording though, just so everybody knows.
What did you say?
Tonight?
Check the hourly weather they show up.
Perfect, 5:15. We'll call the 2025 Town of Effingham Public Budget Hearing to order. Thank you all for coming, appreciate it. For courtesy of others, please turn your cell phones off or to vibrate. If you have any questions, please raise your hand and I will call on you. We'll cover each budget sheet warrant article and give the public a chance for questions on each. I request those who have a question to raise their hand, wait until the call's on by me. As we are recording the hearing, I will repeat any questions for recording clarity if needed. The goal of the Budget Committee is to work and provide guidance and direction to our select board in the budget process. The committee has met 10 times this year for a total of 30+ hours per member, not including the countless hours in prep time. We've attended all select board budget meetings and work sessions to provide guidance and direction and assisted with the Governor Wentworth enrollment policy. We're projecting the town operating budget impact that you're gonna see before you today will be approximately a 3% increase from last year, which is approximately additional 35 cents per thousand. The county tax estimated increase from last year at this time is unknown. We don't know what that is. We haven't got their estimated amount. The ballpark of the school is estimated at $1.52. There's a lot of factors that go into the school. It could be lower. We don't think it's gonna be higher, but it could be. It depends on state funding, and their budget is pretty hefty increase this year, almost 6% according to our school rep. Total estimated 2025 property tax increase is about $1.87 minimum in December of 2025, not including the 4901 budget sheets for fire chief and the bond warrants that we'll go over at the end of this. And I'll point those out when we get to that. You'll hear numerous times in this meeting unassigned fund balance usage. The usage in this budget is $284,000 with Pine River Road being the big ticket item. Budget committee has a process to ensure we understand what our town has for unassigned fund balance and is reviewed at each budget meeting. After usage in this budget, it is projected that it will be approximately left with about $754,000, which is a little in between of what we want. We try to get it at least 700 to 800, preferably over 800, just because we need that to operate and pay bills. As you know, December is when most tax money comes in, so we have to have funds available to pay our town and all the other bills that come in. I want to thank my fellow budget members for their commitment, hard work, and the opportunity to serve our town. And we'll get into the budget sheets. Everybody should have a budget package in front of them. If you don't, they're right in the back of the room. And let's start the budget process. On sheet 2, you will see 4130 executive. The budget committee and the select board approved $174,649. Is there any questions on executive? Okay, sheet 3 is 4140 town clerk, election and registration. The budget committee and select board approved $52,996. Ruth?
If my math is correct, this is about over a 50% increase since 2023. Can you explain why so much more?
2023, Ruth, was an actual number.
Yes,
We were in transition back then. We didn't have people. We were hiring people, letting people. We had openings, so we didn't use the full budget back in 2023 just because we were in transition getting a deputy in. We only had one at that time. So you would see a decrease because we were only about 50% for quite a few months.
do you have the actual expenditures for 2024?
That's, yeah,
40,000.
2020, no, that's budgeted. The actual expenditure, yeah, I got the budget actual for 2024. Pull it out, Ruth.
No report.
Should have had that ready, sorry. Yeah, we're on 4140, correct? The actual amount spent for 4140 election registration was $46,245.03. That was that was a final bill. Any other questions on town clerk? We'll move on to sheet 4. 41 supervisors of the checklist. Select board and budget committee approved $1,930, and this is because of the decrease from 3 to 1 election. That actually affects that. Depends on how many elections you have. That's why you see a decrease. Ms. Slack?
Would this be a good time to talk about employee raises, what you said for that? So as we're going through these pages, we can see what kind of increases.
The budget committee and select board, as per the last 6 or 7 years, in the beginning of the season, we negotiated with the select board that the budget committee wanted the total amount of salaries no more than 2.5%. and the select board wanted 3%. And what we did was, instead of the individual line items in each budget for salary, the select board has that 2.5% to use to move more into one category. If the data shows that that position should be paid more, they can do that. The select board did not go over the 2.5%, which is, our whole town is about 685,000 in salaries is what we track. So they did not go over the 2.5% in this budget for the overall total salary. So for our budget purposes, it's easier for us to help the select board to see what different salaries are, which we provided that at the beginning of the year. We gave them a basis of what salaries for different positions were, and they could use that money as they saw fit. If some needed to be more, some only needed to be less than the 2.5% raise. We left that up to the select board to do that.
Okay, what about for like elected positions like town clerk, tax collector, that type of thing? Did they request an increase in the amount that they received?
You wanna-
Yeah, they did. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but.
Yeah, they did ask a requested increase, which you could see on this sheet, that's increased. And it was actually, the data came in from surrounding communities like Madison and a few others that were provided to them for different positions, that they did give more than the 2.5% for that salary.
Can I jump it? And I mean, if you look into the next sheet, you'll see where the difference between 2024 and 2025, the salary increases and stuff.
That's right on 4150,
Oh,
sheet
okay.
3.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Okay, where were we?
And that'll be the same
Tax
across the board on all.
What is
Okay,
it?
any other questions on 4150 tax collector? Okay, we'll go on to sheet 6. 4150 auditing.
Can I just say something on the salaries?
Yeah, sure.
You know, you see a good, you know, a good increase in the salaries, but we have to, you know, looking at the surrounding towns and everything else and what we have here, we have to pay our employees, you know, to try to keep them.
I'm not criticizing.
Okay.
Just wondered what the
I just wanna
rationale
know
was.
Yeah.
what the,
I mean, we can't do them at, you know, 18, $16 an hour.
Yep.
So,
Okay, so we're on sheet 6, which is 4150 auditing. Select Board and Budget Committee approved 11,750. This is our, Mr. Green auditing. Any questions on auditing? Let's move on to sheet 7. And those of you who got your packets, if you wanna make a change on top, Elaine Chick is there, it should be Bill Pycott. You can make that change if you want, or with just a little editorial. Okay, so 4150 treasurer, the select board and budget committee approved $7,450. Any questions on treasurer? Linda?
Who was the deputy, please?
You didn't have one.
didn't have one.
Didn't have one.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other? We're good? Okay, we'll move on to sheet 8. 4151, budget committee. Budget committee and the select board approved $1,730. Any questions on the budget committee? Okay,
Way too
we'll
high.
yeah. Move on to sheet 9, 4152, assessing. Select board and the budget committee approved 41,950. Any questions on assessing? This is the one we're going with a new company, KRT,
KRT.
just so everybody knows, and it's gonna be a complete townwide assessment this year. And then we enter into
That's a 5-year contract.
4 years after that.
Right.
So I have a budget question on that. So
Ms.
does-
Fuller?
Thank you, Grace Fuller, Snow Road. So with the full town assessment, do we have to pay an additional fee above that amount there? For when they do the assessment?
The total assessment,
Total
yes.
assessment,
Yeah, the amount we see in here has,
just.
we end up having extra, so we lessen the impact on the 5th year.
So we distribute it across 5 years.
Ah,
The
I
total.
see what you're saying,
Yeah.
okay.
So we don't feel such a large impact on that
Got this here.
overall assessment.
Everybody understand?
Okay.
Yep.
Chris?
Just to add to that, normally, we're doing the opposite of what we are with this new company. Normally, we start off with just the maintenance assessment, they would do roughly a quarter of the town each year, and then on year 5, they take all of that information, do a townwide. We're starting off with a townwide revale, so we actually have carryover money that's left over from the previous 4 years to make that townwide revale whole, which is a separate contract from the maintenance, if you will, for lack of a better description. And that fee is 65
something.
roughly $65,000. So this will add to that pool for the assessing contract, but it is 65,000 for this year.
And just one more adding, KRT is, less expensive than Avatar.
Okay, everybody good on 4152 assessment? We'll move on to sheet 10, which is 4153 legal. Select Board and Budget Committee approved 50,000. Any questions on legal? And that's a ballpark figure, and that can go by law over if we have to.
Right.
So it's a stab in the dark, and we'll hope we're close to it.
We should.
Yeah. All right, now we're on sheet 11, payroll expenses. This is your retirement and your FICA. 4155, Select Board and Budget Committee approved 103,264. There a question on retirement and FICA? Medicaid, Social Security is FICA. Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to page 12. 4191, that's slack. Select Board and Budget Committee approved $680. Any questions on 4191 Historic District Commission? Seeing none, we'll move on to sheet 13. 4191 Heritage Commission. Same person. Select Board and Budget Committee approved $1,200. Any questions on 4191 Heritage Commission? Seeing none, we'll move on to page 14. 4191 Planning Board. Select Board and Budget Committee approved $18,348. Any questions on the Planning Board? I think we got some members out here in the audience anyway. Hearing none, we'll move on to sheet 15. 4191 Zoning Board. Select Board and Budget Committee approved $4,381. Any questions on our zoning board? Moving on to sheet 16. 4191 Zoning Officer. Select Board and Budget Committee approved $19,822. And I'll point out on this, you'll notice that the assistant, the second line item up on the bottom there is 0. So that's one of the reductions. We didn't put an assistant in there. Any questions on zoning officer? No? Okay. Move on to sheet 17, municipal buildings. Select Board and Budget Committee approved $78,100. Any questions on municipal buildings? Makes everything the town owns. Okay, moving on, we'll go to sheet 18. 4195 cemeteries, Select Board and Budget Committee approved $2,000. Any questions on cemeteries? Okay, we'll move on to sheet 19, 4196 insurance. Oh, boy. Select Board and Budget Committee approved $149,742.
Insurance.
Any questions on insurance? Linda?
Can I ask who gets health insurance?
Health insurance is the town administrator, police chief, and sergeant.
Correct.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to sheet 20. 4191, advertising and dues. Select Board Budget Committee approved $3,500. This is for posting hearings, posting meetings, posting articles that they have, and dues like NHMA. No, nothing on that. Okay, we'll move on to sheet 21. 4210, police. Select Board and Budget Committee approved $237,865. Any questions on police? Linda?
Yeah. Who is our dog officer? Is it, I thought Tucker Wentworth had something to do with this.
Yes.
Let Chief can answer.
Yes.
He has his own separate budget line, so the other is coming up.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
it's
separate
under-
budget sheet,
It's
Linda.
a completely separate budget.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Susan?
On this, chart, where would something like, speed enforcement control costs be? Where, like, I'm thinking about Green Mountain Road and the recent figures that were shared about, traffic on Green Mountain.
Susan, are you talking about something like radar certification?
Yeah,
It's radar
certification or the, the, speed limit,
The signs?
sign,
Yeah,
that
Tyler,
kind
you
of
got
stuff.
anything on that?
What were you asking as far as that?
like, where does that fall in here?
Right under radar certification.
Under
So that's,
So but that's just to certify.
yeah, it's to calibrate our radars every year,
So that equipment
is all
you already
calibrated.
have,
The equipment would come under the equipment budget.
Yeah,
and you already have.
correct.
Or the trust fund that we have for equipment that he needs to replace things such as vests and things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're looking at a new grant this year to update the speed signs that we have, and if we're awarded the grant, it's a possibility we could actually get a trailer as well. One of those like big radar trailers, so,
Put it dead in the middle of
fingers
the
crossed we
road.
get it.
Lawrence, you have something?
Yeah, how come there's such an increase in the salary? It's $8,571 increase.
Chris, you wanna answer? So basically, we transferred from, to a salary versus hourly job. So he's gone to a full-time salary type position, so we don't have to worry about hours. It's, if you put 60 hours in,
Are you talking about the chief, Lawrence?
that's what I was
Just the
talking
chief.
about. Chris, you wanna add something to that?
Well, before we get into that, I'll just remind you that we ended up having a bunch of data from all surrounding
Right.
communities of what the pay was for a full-time police chief. And we also didn't go into big things like Conway. We went into smaller communities.
Freedom and stuff like that.
And some of the data the budget committee provided to the select board supported a larger increase for that position because of what the surrounding towns were getting for a police chief in the size of the department that we had.
On top of that too, our police chief probably puts in 40, 50, 60 hours a week.
Anyway.
So, minimum. So with this going as a salary, I think where's the savings?
24, it wasn't 40 hours.
It was 40 hours, but he's still putting his 40, 50, 60 hours in.
Accounted for it.
Yeah.
The extra time on duty, he called in. Chuck, you wanna jump in?
Lawrence, the budgeted number you see there is not the actual numbers. So when we're paying him by the hour, if he gets called out in the middle of the night, that's a minimum 4 hours. He's actually, by locking in a salary, going to save the town money.
Right.
Because by doing the hourly, with the call-out time he gets added into it, he's actually gonna go over the number that you've got in there for the salary. So the town's better off doing the salary than it is hourly.
So this, 69,366 doesn't take in the overtime?
That's budgeted, Lawrence. The actual at the end of the year, the police chief was 73,508.
But his question is,
That was
there's no
budgeted.
overtime. There is no overtime.
Yeah. But the number you're looking at, the 69, is the budgeted amount. The actual amount in 2024, because that's what the columns have to be per the state. Only 2023 is actual. but the actual amount on 24, because we're closed right now, that was spent under police chief was 73,508, 35 if you want the cents.
So who gets the, police overtime? What's the line for police overtime?
I can speak to that if you'd like.
Is that on top of the salary?
He doesn't get overtime.
I'm sorry?
He doesn't get overtime.
No, that'd be
No, there's a line for police overtime.
I can speak to
that's your patrol officers.
So, that would be the sergeant, like if he has to stay out extra hours, gets called out, he's entitled to overtime. As well as, not sure if everybody knew or not, we applied for and were granted a federal grant for hiring assistants to add a third full-time officer. So that's also, if that is awarded, or if this is voted on and approved at town meeting, that will also take factor into that, if they do accrue overtime, that's where that will all come out of. So, and up until, if this is approved at town meeting, I'm still hourly and am entitled to overtime until this is approved.
Right.
And I'll remind the public that we did not go over the 2.5% rise in total salaries for the town. You may see more for one position than another, but the overall salaries did not go up more than 2.5%. It went up less than 2.5%. Any other questions on police?
You all set, Lawrence?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move the page over to 22. 4215 EMS contract. This is the good news. It went down. Select Board and Budget Committee approved $91,458, and that has to do with far as they look at how much usage and it gets distributed. Chuck, you wanna give us a little, you know that detail pretty good.
So from a growth standpoint, each year, based on the volume of the previous year, the numbers are reset under the 5-year contract. Our numbers, if you remember 2 years ago, went up quite a bit. We had growth. This past year, our numbers actually went down, and other communities had bigger growth than we did, so we ended up with a lesser price tag this year. So rather than 125 grand, we're gonna be at 90. And out of the 90 we have an agreement with the High Watch Treatment Center, so any calls that are up there for the ambulance service are reimbursed to the town. So that is a perpetual agreement, as long as that organization exists up there as a treatment center, we get that no matter who owns it.
And I think that's average about 20-25%.
20 to 25.
You can see on the bottom of the sheet, we have an estimated amount, about 30,000 we expect back. That's estimated amount. I mean, that fluctuates, depends on the calls, like Chuck mentioned. Any other questions on the EMS contract? Good news, went down. Okay, sheet 23, 4220 Fire and Rescue. Select Board and Budget Committee approved 190,903. Any questions on fire? Seeing, oh, Linda?
How many firemen do we have?
You got that right there, right? Oh, JT? 12. Thank you.
12.
Doesn't, nowhere here to say 12.
Okay,
Do we ever,
put it in, Steve.
Yeah.
Linda?
do we ever have anyone at the building on duty during the day that is not, that doesn't belong to the fire department?
Not that I'm aware of, but JT, I don't believe we've got.
I guess I don't understand the question.
Well, I was, for instance, I had no idea how many people you had. I don't know who they are. Can you give us a list of names of who they are?
I can, they'll actually be in the town report as well, our full roster will be in the town report as well. I don't have a roster in front of me, so I can't rifle them off at the moment, but there is a full roster on the fire department's part of the town report.
Because I went one day to talk to you, but you weren't there, and I met someone that I didn't realize was on the fire department, so I was just curious. You know,
Okay.
okay,
Yeah, good. Pretty good. All right, we'll move on to sheet 24. Sheet 24 is emergency management, 4290. Select Board and the Budget Committee approved $6,289. You can see the new one on here is a Starlink. It gives us accessibility all over the town. Any questions on 4290 emergency management? We have 3 generators, by the way, just in case.
One new one.
Yeah, fire, school, this building, and
Fire department,
fire department.
which is a new generator.
Yep. Everybody good on that one? Let's move on to sheet 25, 4290 Forest Fire Warden. Select Board and Budget Committee approved 2,000. Any questions on Forest Fire Warden? Seeing none, we'll move on. Move on to sheet 26. 4312 Highways and Streets. Select Board and Budget Committee approved 604, 670. Any questions on highways and streets? Pretty well detailed on the left column. Linda?
Road agent.
Ruth?
Requested. Road agent at the bottom.
Road agent was added in by the select board, and what they did is they reduced the contractor amount by that 20,000. If you look at the road contractor amount above it, they took the 20,000 out of that and put it to a road agent. And we're actually getting more bang for the buck, according to the select board, by doing a road agent. Chris can expound on that a little more if you want, Chris.
If you want me to. So this, $20,000 is for 12 to 15 hours a week. For the road agent to go out at $30 an hour. He does have our current one, because someday it could be he or she. Does currently have the old fire chief's built vehicle, so if you see the red Chevy Suburban that says Effingham on the door, that is our road agent. If I could just add real quick, in years past, if we had a windstorm and a tree came down and we had to contact our contractor, he's in the business to make money. He's not an employee of the town, he's a contractor. So he, for safety reasons, sends 2 people with a chainsaw. It's always common practice. You know, for some, and with a 1-ton truck. So you got 2 guys billed at $60 an hour, $65 an hour, a 1-ton vehicle at $75 an hour, and a chainsaw at $40 an hour to go clean up a tree. And we don't fault them for that. It would be a $200-300 bill for a tree down. Whereas opposed to our road agent who's taking the safety courses, most likely would have been the guy doing it for the contractor as it was. We just kind of cut out the middleman. He jumps in the truck that we supply him and goes out and cuts up the tree. And we don't have an hourly minimum, so if it only takes him an hour, worst case scenario, it takes him 2, that's $60. That's it, and that has happened numerous times, which is why we feel very confident, and the numbers show that it has paid dividends and savings, so.
Hey, Susan?
Who is our road agent?
Kevin Downs.
Kevin Downs.
Bob, do you have a question?
Is there, I don't know actually how to put it, is there any conflicts of interest with who that person may or may not work for as a regular position and being our road agent? Or potential conflicts of interest?
I have Chris answer that one.
Chris, you wanna give that one?
So we found that there's no conflicts, and yes, he does work for Evans Brothers on a part-time basis, he's not a full-time employee. Since we have implemented this, he's primarily doing the work for the town of Effingham, where he normally would have been doing it for Evans Brothers. There's been no conflict. He does the assessment, as I stated, he did work part-time for Evans Brothers, who was our contractor for roads, outside winter roads. And he knows the town. He worked for Ron part-time because he lived in Effingham. He operates the grader and was doing the coal patching. So he knows the town, he's very familiar, he's been here his whole life, has worked for every single one of our road agents, since I've been alive. So, there's been no conflict, and this has, again, it's paid dividends.
And we met with Evans also and said he was comfortable with
Yes.
being a road agent.
Any other questions on 4312?
Got a question?
Oh, Chuck?
No,
I was just
Bob?
kind of, so we have a road agent, we're gonna pave roads. Is that road agent present as the work is being done at all?
What are you talking for, Bob? Paving?
we just hired him, but go ahead, Chris.
Or is there quality, some type of quality control oversight of?
Chris, I don't believe you're doing paving, is he?
No, so he's been present for our site blocks, he's been present for any of the bond conversations. He would be present, there would be some presence there. I'm not gonna sit there and profess to say that he's an expert in the paving, as we talked about before, Bob.
Mhm.
It is my hope, and as the Board of Selectmen has discussed, that we would be hiring, and you'll have to forgive me, and you can probably tell me what that title is, I know what it is. It's an overseer of asphalt to make sure that your slips, that you're actually getting what you're supposed to get. We would be looking to hire separately for that, on any of the big road projects.
You could probably get those details, I believe the town of Conway currently hired a person that follows around its paving crew.
Yeah.
Of course, their paving budget is a heck of a lot more than our paving budget is.
Yeah, and this,
But it's just, we're going deep in the ground here, and if you don't bring it back right, and I'm talking compaction, I didn't see a water truck on the road. Anytime a road goes to dirt, it should have a water truck on it.
this isn't prevalent to that. We'll get to that one, Bob, with the paving, which will get you, we'll get you
Alright,
what
see,
you
I'm in the wrong place.
Yeah, so once we get to the paving one, you can bring that up.
Yeah, on the warrants,
We'll get you-
we'll get to it.
Yeah,
Don't forget the thought.
yeah.
Oh, I won't forget the thought.
Okay, 4312, anything more on highways and streets? Okay, we'll move on to sheet 27, bridges, 4313. Select Board Budget Committee approved 1,000, basically washing bridges, repairing something minor on a guardrail. Gives them the ability to have this open if they need it. Any questions on 4313 bridges? Seeing none, we'll move on. We'll move on to sheet 28, which is 4316 street lighting. We have 13 total. Select Board and Budget Committee approved $4,600. Any questions on street lighting? Significantly reduced from years previous. Okay? We'll go into sheet number 29, which is 4323 solid waste collection. Select Board and Budget Committee approved $86,300. Any questions on solid waste collection 4323?
Which is significantly reduced also.
Pretty good. Move on to sheet 30, solid waste disposal. Select Board and Budget Committee approved $92,250. Any questions on solid waste disposal? And I'll just point out that we have a special fund that the money goes into, that only the town can authorize to spend out of that special fund that we collect for the fees.
Which is over 6 figures.
Okay, no questions on 4324? Oh, I'm sorry, Ruth?
On tires, do people pay, are these tires that are being dropped off, by the road, that's the $1,200?
People drop them off at the transfer station, they have to pay a fee to dispose of them, based on sizes.
Yeah, we're getting money for the tires, but yes, on the tires here,
That's a wash.
yeah, it's a lot.
It's a wash, is it, after you?
With the fees and everything else, yes.
We hope.
We have all the new, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, it's not always a wash, Ruth, because unfortunately, there are tires that get dumped on the side of the road.
Which
And we do have somebody, the road agent or one of the transfer station, the transfer station manager, he goes and picks them up for us. That is an unfortunate thing, so my statement of it's a wash is actually incorrect by a couple $100 because, unfortunately, that does happen, but.
Right.
But the overall, you're talking about.
I mean, if you're looking less than a dozen tires a year, they
Yeah.
pick up.
I mean, luckily, we don't have many disposed like that yet. Okay, so everybody good on that? Okay, thank you, Cody. Sheet 31, solid waste cleanup. The landfill monitoring and the PFAS testing. Select Board and Budget Committee approved 11,850. Linda?
Yes, 24 was 2,500, now it's gone down, can you tell me why?
They end up going to HEB to get an estimate of how much we need as far as testing, because they're required to do so much testing. And they provide us an estimate of what we need for the next year.
Go ahead, Chris.
Agree?
It's actually not HEB anymore, it's a different company.
Yeah,
Oh, we
it's-
changed?
Yeah, we changed it.
last year. Every year that goes by, the
Engineering.
radius gets smaller for the wells that we have to test after the PFAS exposure.
Okay.
So every year that number is gonna go down.
What's the name of the,
Hopefully,
Still an engineering firm. We go to,
Correct.
it gives us the estimate because Caitlin gave me the
I
number
can't
for
pronounce the name, what's the name of that site?
that's
Begins with an
that.
S.
SAS?
Stanton, sorry.
Stanton, there you go.
Stanton Engineering.
Stanton Engineering?
Instead of HEB?
Yes.
Any questions on solid waste cleanup? Any additional? Good. Okay, we'll move on to sheet 32. Health Administration, 4411. Select Board and Budget Committee approved $4,050. Any questions on Health Administration? No. Doesn't have to be, won't be down. Okay.
Who is the house officer?
You heard me?
Sheet 33.
There, Dave.
Sheet 33,
Who's the?
4414, Bill Pikeit is currently the health officer. But the Board of Selectmen is a responsible party, they appoint him. So sheet 33, 4414, animal control officer. I think Linda asked about this before.
Yes, I see,
Just, the Select Board and Budget Committee approved $11,025. Is there any questions on that? Linda? Thank you.
I do not see Tucker in here at all, like for a salary or how much he gets, so I'm wondering what that is.
Right
Go ahead.
at
Tyler?
the top, the animal control officer,
That would be him?
that is his salary.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Tyler is actually in charge of it, but he works for Tyler. Any questions on animal control officer? I think we had some numbers in here. So I think everybody good on animal control officer? Yeah? He's gonna get into it right now.
Yeah, good.
Sheet 34. Select Board approved 4415 health agencies. Select Board approved 29,900, Budget Committee approved 27,500. Any questions on health agencies?
Yes,
No, that's where it's going.
That's
Jen?
Jen.
yes,
Jen?
Jennifer, Danforth. Why did Starting Point go down from 4,000 to 3,000?
We don't like them.
No, we have, the Budget Committee has a process that we use with the nonprofits that involves, as you know, Jen, we have the presentations, we have the sheet, detailed sheets that we go through multiple times, then we have an analysis sheet that we rate each agency, and then we actually assign a detail to each agency of the weight that we're gonna have for the town. So the Budget Committee does this, the Select Board don't do that. And because of the recent increases that we had in town of over $3.17 for the school and the big impact and the high delinquency rate, we looked at what the impact was of certain agencies, of how much we were giving and what the impact was on those agencies. We determined that we were gonna keep it within a certain amount that we had of money for the town to give to the agencies. And we've reduced other people also, just because this town got hit so hard. And we're expecting, as I said in the beginning, a minimum of $1.87 increase in December. And we just got hit with a $3 increase. So we tried to be prudent in some areas where we could and reduce things, and there's other things you'll see as we go along, that there's some differences also.
So the town really doesn't know how much we use some of these services, is that true?
No, I would say that's not true.
That's not true.
We know,
So
that's
we
one
would
of,
know how much.
They come in and present their budget, with their,
They
Jen,
tell us how much.
Yes, yes, we have set, just to say, we have set times they come in and give us a presentation for each and every one of them. Not all come in, most do. And they go through their package, they provide their package months beforehand to us. So we have time to digest everything in these packages. And then we can rate all those packages and determine if we're gonna give more than 1%, or about 1.5%. We went even a little higher than what we wanted
of the total budget.
of the total budget. And then we said, okay, we're gonna divide that up into what we feel is prudent based on that rating system. Any other budget committee member wanna add, Steve, you got something?
yeah, I just wanted to tell you that one of the things that we weigh most is what impact these organizations have for our citizens. Okay? And the other thing that we look at is the dollars that we're sending to them, how much does it impact their operation? In other words, there are some that have millions of dollars at the top, and they have a lot of administration and everything else, so if we send them $1,000, they wouldn't even know it was there. Yet there are others that have no overhead like that are purely driven with every nickel that they get. That's important to us, because we know that not only are they taking care of our citizens, but they're being very conscious of the money. So those are all the things that we weigh, and we really go through every one of them, and we all talk about it, and it takes a while.
Multiple meetings, anybody, any other budget committee member wanna?
Is that clear, Ken?
What?
I said, does that answer your question?
Sort of, yes.
So, just to add to what Steve said, one of the things that weighs heavily is the overhead of these organizations, and the ones that have less overhead and the more of that money goes back to our citizens, we weigh them more heavily, like Freedom Food Pantry.
Yeah.
So, and like Dave said, we had a budget we were working with, we have a rating system, and then the numbers kind of fall where they lay, and then we might tweak it a little bit, but we're just trying to make sure that, we're getting the best bang for the buck that we're donating to these organizations.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on health, Linda?
On which one? Tri-County Health, is that the one you're doing?
Starting point.
Oh.
All of them is what we're doing.
Okay,
Right.
68 hours of hunger, can you tell me about that?
What would you like to know?
I would like to know, is it for the kids and they get food for the weekend, goes home with them? Is
Yes,
that what it is about?
yes.
Can you tell me how many children we have that are using this?
It was 24, wasn't it?
27.
I think it was 24.
We got it right here. Oh, it's actually in that sheet.
25, I think.
It's on.
68 hours of hunger, Linda, is what you're asking about? 12,
Look, 25.
12.
2025.
Estimated citizens served is what they have is 12. That's what I've got on my sheet.
Not always projected, though, this is projection.
That's projection for next year, which is what we're doing, is the next year's budget. They're projecting 12.
Wow.
The reason that we actually reduced that one was because last year we went up 85% on their budget.
Okay. Do we know yet what is packed in those? What we're giving these children for food?
The package.
They did give us a detail of food. It wasn't fast food, it wasn't processed food. They did give us a detail of the foods that they did. And they said everything met the standards of the nutrition.
Okay. One more question about
Yeah.
it. Does it go during the summertime?
Yes.
And where do families pick it up? At the school?
They told us that sometimes that, mostly it's given at the school, and they will sometimes deliver to the student. Grace, do you have more info on that?
Yes, and the library is also a pickup point for that, so we get deliveries on, I think it's a weekly basis, and people can come in and pick up.
And how did that go?
There weren't any issues, I guess I can say that.
Can you
Is that-
can you say that it was, that people did pick up all the food?
It varied by week,
Okay.
so I can say that sometimes there were more people and less.
What happens to the food? They take it back?
I don't know, Linda, I knew you were gonna ask that, I don't know, no, but I know they refresh it.
They told us at their presentation that if anything that could be saved would be saved and reused if it could be. But they try to make sure that each child, and any budget committee member can chime in here, what I remember, any child can get the package. They will go through the guidance counselor if they have to make sure that that child gets their package. Does that sound right, Cody?
Would it be possible to, like, I'm always thinking ahead with addressing any of these questions that come up. So this seems like something that these packets that they give to us, we could actually post actually what they're doing and if, on the town website, along with maybe updating it, so you can look back at years past and see how they've went through. Is that something?
We talked about that when they gave when we did the nonprofits, and that was something that said that we could look into if we wanted to do that.
I think
We
that
could request that.
I think with questions like this, we should.
Yeah, and then I think one of the additions was the library, from that meeting that we had, they were gonna be available at the library. That came out of that, so that was an addition. Linda, you got more?
Grace, is it advertised that it's at the library?
Yes, there's a poster put up there, it's in a, so there's posters, there's information on the website and posters outside as well, and inside there's a place where people can go in and pick it up.
And at the end of the school year, do they send home something for the parents of these children, so they also
Yes, so
get it
they're
that way?
aware, so that they're aware that it's available.
Okay.
And it is not, what do I wanna say? It's packaged food, so it won't spoil.
I know
type
that,
of
but
thing.
I was just curious on what it is.
Yeah.
Any other questions on 4415? Hearing none, we'll move on to sheet 35, general assistance.
I had another question on that, I'm sorry.
On the same one, Linda?
No, Meals on Wheels. How many do we have here?
Meals on Wheels? Second.
That's the consensus. That's the consensus.
While they're looking that up, if I just wanna say something. I know that I'm new to this budget committee,
48.
but out of all the meetings that I sat through, and everything was important. I took great pride in actually the due diligence being taken by what they said, what was the research that we did, that these were all the best organizations and they were allocated accordingly. And I welcome any questions, I wanna be transparent with all the answers. So I just wanna let you know there was a lot of heart and soul put into each of these.
I'm sure.
It was a long meeting.
There was, the 48, Linda.
48, really?
48, and some of those are multiples. So they delivered to them more than once,
Right.
but they delivered 48.
Do we have a driver here in town that does that?
She did not specify, they just said that they had
Volunteers.
volunteer drivers.
Okay.
Yep, so I assume they would take any from anywhere, because I know they're looking for drivers.
Okay.
If we could get
Okay, we good?
Grubhub or Uber Eats here, that'd be great.
We all set on 4415? Let's move on to sheet 35. Sheet 35, 442, general assistance. Select board and the budget committee approved 12,600. Any questions on general assistance? That's a pretty good number, and that's the same thing, pretty much as legal. We shoot for a target, we know after all these years, this is the target that we have, and obviously, if we have a large family move in, it'll blow it right out of the water. But we do the best we can based on the history we have over the years that we did it, and this is the best number we can come up with. But it is allowed to go over per the state. Any questions on general assistance? Good. We'll move on to sheet 36, please. Parks and Rec. Select Board and Budget Committee approved 45,000. And I'll point out that we have a contract with Ossipee to get us up to 50. We've had that for a few years now, 5,000 a year increases. So instead of shoving us up right to 50 3 or 4 years ago, they agreed with the contract to gradually increase us based on the percentages. We end up getting percentages of usage from the Parks and Rec Department to justify what they're asking for in the percentages. So we see that at the Budget Committee meeting, and the Select Board also sees the same thing.
Before there's any questions, I would like to ask if one of the selectmen could please, in a very small amount of detail, explain why we are getting more bang for our buck by offering this, and about how the budget doesn't include any maintenance and stuff that was mentioned before, if you don't mind, please.
Go ahead, Chuck, you jump in, you're the one that negotiated the
I think
contract.
that was a targeted question, wasn't it, Coach? So back when, Budget Chair Strauss and I negotiated this with Ossipee, part of what we learned was the numbers that get delivered to the Budget Committee from reporting are only around the sports activities for the kids. Does not include all of the other stuff that's available, because anything like Constitution Park, the dog park, the walking trails,
Beach.
the public beach, any of that stuff, any of the dance areas, any of the skating areas, whatever's there, that's also available to every one of the residents of town. They just don't have a way to measure that. And as part of the budget, even though the rec budget is part of Osspi's annual report, the thing that's not included in the rec budget is anything to do with maintenance. So anything to do with mowing the lawns or plowing or anything like that comes out of the town highway budget, not out of the recreation budget. So it's a highway budget.
It comes out of the public buildings.
Public buildings budget. So that's not taken into account when you just look at the rec dollars for Ossipee. That other number is actually much larger than the rec number from a maintenance standpoint.
The grounds and maintenance budget for Ospey is over $200,000.
Any other questions, Linda?
Do we know how many children are going from the school that are involved in?
Yes, we did have those numbers, and.
Town residents
Do I
or
have it in
school
here?
specific?
I think it was just over 200.
I think it was a little over 200.
Yeah, it's over 200, I don't have it in front of me,
But
but.
they actually total that up with someone in volleyball, the same person's in volleyball as hockey, so that's counted as 3, it isn't just one, every use of every one. So one child who goes to 5 different activities would be counted as a 5.
Yeah,
So that's why you see a higher 200 plus number.
and there's no bus that brings, like, the kids from Effingham to the Ospey River.
Oh, God, no,
Okay.
no, this is after our rec,
I know,
yeah, so.
And anything that's an additional activity, like if there's a bus that's going to Purity Springs for skiing, that's an additional charge that has to be paid for by the family. So it's not part of this budget item, so.
Yeah, there is a few activities that are extra money if you wanna get into it, above and beyond this. Everybody, even the Ospey residents have to pay that extra fee, if they wanna get into something like Chuck just said. So as I stated, that's gonna go next year up to 50,000, the contract's gonna be renegotiated. So you see it at 45 right now. Okay, any other questions on, 4520 Parks and Rec? No? Alright, let's go to 4550 Library. Select Board and Budget Committee approved $75,207. Any questions on the library? Seeing none? Oh,
what are the hours at the library, how many days a week?
Grace, wanna go for that?
Hold on, hold on, Linda. Open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. The director is there, 5 to 6 days a week, but on days when it's closed to the public. So on Mondays and Fridays, she's working, but it's closed to the public.
So what is she doing?
Admin and operational stuff.
And total hours? Total hours.
hours that the library is open is
No, she,
21
the way
hours.
she works.
Oh, her hours are 35 to 38 hours a week.
Any other questions on library? Okay, let's move on to sheet 38. 4583, the controversial patriotic purposes. Select Board Budget Committee approved $750. That's for the flags that we put out. Covers the flags at the fire station at this building. Yeah, all the graves.
All the
Yep.
great, veterans.
Any questions on 4583 patriotic purposes? Seeing none, we'll move on to 39. 4611 Conservation Commission. Select Board and Budget Committee approved $4,530. Any questions on Conservation Commission? Seeing no questions, we'll move on to sheet 40. 4619 Town Forester, Mr. Libby, he's been here a long time, and I assume everybody knows Mr. Libby.
I think the budget's been like that for 20 years.
Yeah, and we all agree that this $1,000 the Budget Committee and Select Board approved is definitely a gift to the town. He does a lot for the town. Any questions for the forester? 4619.1, other conservation. This is a PLA Lake Host Program at Province Lake, $3,000, Budget Committee and Select Board approved. Any questions on conservation? Basically, the boat checks and milfoil is covered in there. Okay, let's move on to sheet 42. Debt service, as of right now, the town has no debt, but we put $1 for a placeholder. Don't see no hands on that. Move on to sheet number 43, 4723, tax anticipation note. Hopefully, we never have to use that, but we leave it as $1 just as a placeholder. And now the big one, sheet 44. So everything that we just went through is your operating budget for the town, the 35 cents that I talked about. Okay? And you can see that's $2,296.597. That will be,
You read that?
$97. $2,296,597. Thank you, Scott.
We don't round up.
They don't round up. So that's, you will see a warrant article for the operating budget, and that's what you should expect to see. Unless something changes on the town floor. Something changes on the town floor, that will get adjusted. But that's pretty much, after this meeting, that's what the warrant's gonna be posted as. And then obviously at town meeting, that can be changed if need be. You do see a note in the bottom, if full-time fire chief warrant is approved. We'll get into that as we get going. There'll be an adjustment, if that gets approved at town meeting, there'll be adjustment in the fire department day shift line item. Some of that money will shift in to cover the full-time fire chief. So there would be some moving if you have to, as the note dictates down here. Ruth?
What is the increase in municipal operations from the actual spending for 2024?
The overall? 2024, we were at $2,222,000.
This is budget, what's actual, right here.
No, this is 24.
Yeah.
Yeah,
24.
yeah. 2,179,051. So that would be roughly 600,000.
Were you looking for actual? What we actually used?
She wants to know what the difference is between last year
Oh.
and this year.
Yeah, proposed.
That's what you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a little less than 600, Ruth. Any other questions on the operating budget?
It doesn't sound right, Dave.
No,
What's that?
No, 252.
197, 190. 2,197,000, is that what you said?
Yeah.
And this is 2,296,000?
Yeah, it's
Should
about
be roughly
93,000.
$80,000.
93,000.
Yeah. It's in the
Sorry.
neighborhood of 93 grand.
You get the exact amount. Yeah, 78,000 roughly. I was looking on the wrong line item, I'm sorry. 35-cent increase of 217 million is what our town's assessed at. Okay, so now we'll get into sheet 45. That's 4901, other warrants. Everybody on that page? Okay. Now what you will have on this is you will have some verbiage behind it. These are draft. The draft wording of the warrants. The number amounts will not change. The wording could be adjusted a little bit. This is only draft wording. So the amounts will not change after this meeting. Everything posted, but the wording that you actually see in the warrant may be a little different than what you see in here. This is just a rough draft to give you an idea of what it's gonna basically look like. Okay? So the first one on 4901 is Pine River Road dirt work paving. Budget Committee and Select Board approved 520,000, of which 270 is coming from the unassigned fund balance, and 250 is built into the tax rate that we already use. And that'll do Pine River Road partial, and then grinding for the remainder of the road, the other half of the road. This is the one that you will see that when we get down to the road bond, that could affect that. So the Pine River Road dirt road work paving is basically what we do every year, try to do 1 to 1.2 miles of road every year and use as much as we can of what's available from the unassigned fund balance to try and get a little more. If we can't, we do a little less. That's based on the old select board plan of trying to do 1 to 1.2 with the 250,000 that we have built into the budget. Lawrence?
We're gonna grind 2.3 miles, but we're gonna pave 1.1 miles. We're gonna leave a mile of that dirt,
Correct,
huh?
correct. Till next
We're gonna
year,
leave dirt.
For a year.
for a year, till next year.
Why would we grind more than we're gonna pave?
Cheaper than filling in the potholes.
Chris, you wanna cover that?
I think Leo just did.
Cheaper than filling in the potholes. Especially on the last portion of the road towards 16, it's full of potholes. So grind it.
So you're gonna have to grade that every 2 weeks?
No.
No.
If you,
Chris,
Go ahead, Chris.
if you look back, there wasn't any questions and so I didn't answer it, but if you look back at the calcium chloride line item on whichever budget that was, whatever sheet that was, the intent is to put magnesium on that road and roll it compaction so that it lasts longer, much like some of the other roads in similar towns have done. Yes, it's not, is it the best case scenario? Of course not. If we could grind it and then repave it, that'd be the best case scenario, but we don't have $600,000, an additional $500,000 or $600,000 to do the other half, so. We spend a lot of time and effort into filling potholes, the road is in tough shape. If we grind it while they're there, as opposed to them coming back and doing the other half, it's cheaper in the long run.
What's the estimate, $20,000 to grind the remaining 1 mile road?
It's roughly $44,000 to grind the whole 2.2 miles, not 2.3, 2.2.
So it's about 25,000 to grind the remaining road.
Do we have the depth to be able to take the potholes out and still hold pavement, or
Yes.
are we taking it right to dirt?
Still whole pavement? No.
So you're gonna take it all right to dirt and leave it
Correct.
that way?
this is the current method of doing 1 to 1.2 with the amount of money that we have. We're able to do a little more because we had more in the unassigned fund balance, so we're able, select board determined that they wanted to do the grinding because we had a little extra money to do additional past the 1.2. So that was their plan they presented to the budget committee, keeping with the select board previous plan of 1 to 1.2 of trying to do it and what we can afford in our budget. We're not always gonna have that amount of unassigned fund balance. There'll be less, there'll be more, sometimes we won't even be able to hit it maybe, I don't know, but I assume we will, but we have to be just diligent on making sure we have enough in our coffers to take care of it. Susan?
So the term dirt work, is that what you just described as?
No.
What is that?
Go ahead, Chris.
So that's what we call a box cut. That's where you take those areas that are really out of shape, you get the humps, the bumps, much like there was on Elm Street, and you dig down and you get a whatever product, whatever material that's underneath there that doesn't jive with New Hampshire weather and frost, and it accepts, the types of sand. It could be sand, it could be gravel, it could be clay. They both hold, accept water differently. And then when they freeze in the wintertime, there could be giant boulders or rocks and ledge or things of that nature. So it's to get down in those areas that are really the worst spots and do what's called a box cut. Like if you've ever seen on the state highways where you drive along and they've dug down, 4 or 6 feet below the road surface, they're getting down to a good base, and then they build that up in 1 to 2 foot lifts, they call that. So you bring it up 1 or 2 feet with good material, compact it, water it, to what Bob's point was earlier, and then you bring it up another foot, 2 feet, compact it with a good heavy roller and water it, and you bring that up, so you're getting good compaction and you're getting a good solid base to now put fresh pavement over so it doesn't happen again.
Alright, thank you.
And culvert replacement.
Okay, I'm gonna move on.
Dave.
Oh, sorry, Bob?
I just have one question, I don't wanna get into the design, he's been working with Jim Bowles, that's a gift to have that guy work with you, so Jimmy definitely knows his job. The only thing that I would have to say here is, we really need some kind of oversight, like, and I'm not talking a guy that just takes the paper. Once you get down in a deep cut, when he says it's foot or 2 foot, whatever the standard is right now, is coming up with each lift to get that 6 feet of road back. That wasn't done on Elm Street. It's showing. Our culverts that we put in on Green Mountain, I don't know, 5 years ago maybe now, we're losing them because it's improper compaction. That, someone's gotta either test it or watch it really closely, and it has to be someone that knows, a certified individual. You see what I'm trying to say? I'm retired now, my certification ends the end of this year. I'd be happy to advise you or help you out if I can, but a professional person with a piece of paper in their pocket that can say, that ain't right, is kinda what we're looking for.
Okay.
And to the point of just a slip taker, do we know that every load actually comes to us? Because I've done this for a million years, and I can tell you right now, I've seen them disappear. All of a sudden you got, 1 comes, 3 comes, he's got 2 slip, I mean, I've seen it happen. Can we trust him, or is it that,
Chris, you wanna add into that?
Well, we certainly do our due diligence in vetting our contractors to the best of our ability, and to the point of having somebody oversee it. Green Mountain Road, to your point about the culverts, if anybody remembers, if you were familiar with the budget process, the budgeting and the oversight of that whole thing, there was an engineer on site that oversaw every single one of those, an independent engineer that oversaw the installation of every single one of those culverts when they were put in the Green Mountain Road. So if they're still heaving, welcome to New Hampshire, that's all I can say. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, the board at that time, and we'll continue to do the same thing, does our best and our due diligence in trying to put the people in place that we can rely on. But it still happens. There was, in the past, when Green Mountain Road was done, there was an engineer on site that oversaw every single one of those culverts when they were installed.
Okay, point taken. Any other questions on Pine River Dirt Road work paving? Okay. Next one down is a full-time fire chief. Select Board and the Budget Committee approved $77,488 for the full-time fire chief, and I'll remind you on the back is the rough wording of the warrant, Ruth?
What would the cost be for the full 12 months?
The cost will be for the full 12 months. Let me have that, Ruth, I got that right here.
I don't understand the question.
Well, she's saying 12 months, cause this is actually just gonna
Oh,
be
from
from
the,
March.
the 13,
Yeah,
Okay, if you mind.
yeah, go ahead, JT.
It's an $80,000 a year salary, and that's commensurate with the departments around us as well, similar in size. And again, it's salary similar to what we were talking about with the police, where there's no overtime available, anything like that, it's a flat salary.
Well, this is salary plus benefits, right?
Right, so there would be additional, right now, it's not requesting for medical, which could be
which is a high
30.
cost, yeah.
could be 30,000, so, but it's not requesting medical, so there's no cost for that. But retirement is somewhere, full year would be around 28,000, 24,000, 28,000, because it's about 32%. And that's less on this, because this doesn't take effect until, I believe it's April 1st. April 1st because of town meeting, and this is where you would end up taking that 46, if you flip over, you see the 48,360. That would be covering some of the part, that would come out of the day shift line item coverage to make up that amount.
I was just wondering, looking ahead, 2026
The
is gonna be.
the new year, if it started off a new year with a full-time fire chief, and you see your yearly COLA cost increases, next year, if it's gonna be 3% of 80,000, it may go up a little bit, over 80,000. And if they decided to do, as far as health insurance costs, say JT wasn't here and a new fire chief came in and said he wanted health insurance, we'd have, the worst case would be the family plan, which would be about another $30,000 hit on the town. And then you would end up seeing retirement costs, which is gonna be another 24. So you add that roughly 54,000 into that 80, and that's what a year cost could be if they took health insurance benefits. I believe that's what your question was, Ruth,
Yes.
correct? Okay. Linda?
And this is for 35 hours?
No, this is salary.
Salary,
Salary. Yep,
Okay.
so he's on call 7 days a week.
definitely over 40.
Yeah, so it'd be a minimum of 40 type of situation, but typically it'll be over that.
Trying to keep it under 65 or 70.
Yeah, we're at 65 or 70 a week now, and most of that's unpaid, so.
Right now, we're paying the fire chief and one officer in the daytime budget because we're having a hard time getting two people full-time, so the chief is doing one of the people for the daytime shift in the fire department. So obviously, if he goes to this full-time, that money would come and he'd be there as a full-time salary. We just have one on a day shift, a firefighter.
Can I go back and ask, out of the 12 members, are all of them from Effingham?
No, the majority are not.
Can you tell me how many are from Effingham?
4, I believe, off the top of my head. Maybe 5. Yeah, maybe 5.
Lawrence?
He's asking for 77,000, what have we been paying for the last year? What was the amount of money that we paid for the last year?
You're at, what reading, 24? 23.
Yeah, it's right-
24.
yeah, that's, look at it right here. It's 35 an hour.
I don't see it in there.
And I believe you were capped at
34 hours.
34 hours, capped at 34 hours.
Annualized, about 62,000.
Yeah.
How much?
Well, 62,
62,000 at the current numbers.
with no benefits. because he was below the 40 hours, or 35 to go, I guess. or
It was about 34 hours, yes.
Yeah. Any other questions on,
Can I ask, if I
Linda?
may, when we first did this with the fire chief, weren't they supposed to live in town? Has that changed?
I'm not aware of that. Anybody aware of that?
It was not live in town, Linda, since I've been around in 19, it was live in town and or a contiguous town. Touching us,
Surrounding town.
Surrounding town.
or within a 15-minute drive.
I don't know where you live. Can you tell me where you live?
So I live in Tamworth at the moment.
Tamworth?
And if we could find housing in town, that'd be great.
This side of town.
Oh, you can if you wanna pay, I
Yeah,
guess.
that's, yeah.
We're gonna turn it.
Why needs this house?
Any other questions on, Lawrence, you got one?
So if we're gonna pay him a salary of 77,000, what's, and he's gonna get the benefits, what's the total gonna be that we're gonna have for fire chief?
It's gonna be the 77,004, if that passed, the 77,488.
Okay,
And then you're gonna add the retirement benefit, you'd have to add in the retirement benefit.
Which is 20,
That's gonna be around 20, because it's part year.
Yeah.
So it's
and no health benefits.
200, about 21,000, because it's like 31% of this amount goes to retirement to the state. So that's in the, that would have to be, you would have to increase the retirement to cover that.
It'd be about 100 grand.
Yeah. Just under.
Yeah, tell him.
And he doesn't need the health insurance right now. So that's not an addition.
So he's getting health benefits from.
Well, we can't ask that, but he just says he doesn't need health benefits, yes.
Privacy.
We didn't get it, I believe that's, is right. I
We
mean,
can't ask the question.
You can't ask a question.
yeah.
I'm on my wife's plan, I'm happy to tell you.
sounds good.
If he gets benefits later, is that gonna be another warrant article, or is that just gonna be, I don't know?
No, that's in, I believe that's in the policy of the town. You have to give it to him if you request it.
It's not a warrant.
So it could be 1 month, or it could be on the 11th month you start it. Ruth?
Can you clarify for me, the article says that the sum is for salary and benefits for 77,000.
Yeah, but the retirement isn't considered that. The benefits we're talking about is health.
For the current year.
He's eligible for health benefits. He's not gonna take it.
But you're right. I
But
think
this
it needs to be
includes
rephrased.
retirement, the 77,000 for
That's
20.
77,000 doesn't include the retirement.
I
So
think
what
it-
are the benefits he's getting?
You
He's
have,
eligible for health benefits, and that's where it's a standard wording of the,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's a
Standard
standard wording of the warrant article.
But I would agree with what Ruth is saying.
Yeah.
I don't think it's clear, because it reads to me, it's 77,000 for salary and benefits, when it's actually not, 77 or
plus,
right, plus benefits.
Yeah, and I'll remind you, this is a draft.
Right,
So
right,
we
but I
we
would
can ask
just
the select board to look into that, to see if that, I know it's a standard boilerplate words that we get from the state of how we put it in.
Yeah.
So maybe we can talk to them and just clarify that with a clarification
So just
statement.
add plus after and. Plus and plus benefits.
Well,
Or just
No,
delete and
just
put plus.
delete, yes, delete and use the word plus.
Just ask the question of the RA. Strike the word and.
Plus
put the
cost
word
of
plus.
benefits.
I will discuss that with, I got it. I'll discuss it.
good question. All right,
So if he took the health benefit, what would the health benefits cost?
depends if he took single, family, partner. If you took the worst one, which is family, year is about $30,000.
So,
And it doesn't necessarily have to be this chief. If he left and another chief came and he wanted it, we'd have to give it to him.
so when you add that all up, that comes to $134,000.
Correct,
Please do.
for a full year.
And our town administrator and our Sergeant?
We know that sounds like a lot, but if you actually look at what it takes in other towns that are similar, you might even find he's a little underpaid. No, I'm just saying, I think there's a value to quality, and I also think that there's a value to being fair.
I think, can I say something? Yeah, I think there's also value from our fire chief for what's, in addition for being the fire chief, what he's also doing for the town itself, as far as the IT equipment, OHC, helping us with some of the contracts with the software and stuff. He has a very good background on that, which has saved us a lot of money. And that's why you see a low increase in our taxes right now.
And Steve, what are the tax delinquencies at this point for this year? It's
I
over
haven't got
$500,000,
the
right?
exact, excuse me?
It's over $500,000?
At July, we were over $500,000.
Yeah, it is dropped.
Yeah, it's dropped now, we're just, I believe, over 300 right now. I mean, cause you do 2 data points, at least I do one in July, and I try to do one in the end of February. But I mean, I checked before here, and we're right in the 300,000. We're typically this time of the year, cause usually in this time of the year, we're in the 200s. So we're higher than what we normally would, but it's not unexpected considering we just seen a $3 tax increase. So it doesn't surprise me that we see more delinquency than what we normally would.
And we pretty much, over our time frame, I mean, you and I have been on the budget committee, what, 10, 12 years?
Yeah.
We were seeing 200,000 to 300,000 this time of year.
So it's a little higher than what we normally have, but it's not unexpected because of the, in this February timeframe. I haven't got the final number, I do it at the end of February.
Well, I saw that we had a special line in the tax collector for tax lien postage. I've never seen that before.
We had so many liens posted, it was.
So are we
more
going
than
in the right direction to afford all the things we should have?
Yeah, so we have a lot of liens, and the tax collector came to the budget committee, and we all knew he ended up adding that line item in because it was so significant. More liens than we've ever had in town before.
And it was a positive too with him doing that, because we did get a lot of response, people paying the taxes.
Well, I mean, if you get a lien on your house, then they know that.
Yeah.
Chris, you got something?
On that subject, if I may, about the
Oh, go for it.
status of the delinquent taxes, one of the driving factors, I believe, and my 2 fellow selectmen can speak up, that contributed to that $500,000 in July. In August, we met with the management of Green Mountain Treatment Center because they were in the arrears 2.5 years on their property taxes. Now, that treatment center up there leases that property from an outside agency that actually owns it. We were actually breaking news to them that they were in jeopardy of being homeless with their treatment center if it had gone until December of that year. Consequently, a couple weeks later, the town of Effingham, on top of the quarterly payments that we get for the ambulance calls up there, received a check for over $400,000 from that facility.
Thank you, Chris, for bringing that up.
Yeah,
So
but
that was a contributing factor, because they were 2.5 years behind at that point in their property taxes.
yeah, they were behind in 23 and 24, and the data you collect, because you're in 24 last year. So actually, the data you collect to get that is 22 and 23. That's how your auditors do that. So one of those years, like Chris said, is significant because you have some properties that are higher. But we all know that was a huge increase that we saw. Okay, anybody else, any other information? I mean, obviously, this is gonna be a warrant, you'll see at the town meeting. There can be additional discussion at town meeting. And right now, that is slated, if it passes as is, in addition to the 187 that we just talked about, between the school and the 35 cents for the warrant article for the operating budget, this would increase an additional 14 cents for December 2025. That's what the increase would be to do that, okay? The next one on 4901 is FEMA funds usage, 28,912. Select Board Budget Committee approved the funds that were received from FEMA to go into the Emergency Management Trust Fund. So this is a no tax impact. This is taking the money that we received. We've used some of the money out of the emergency trust fund. We're gonna put more than what we used. We're gonna put the whole amount back that we used. Leo?
And I wanna also add that our fire chief handles the FEMA funds, doing all the paperwork, getting all the money in
Grants.
grants. And it's, last couple of years, it's been very helpful.
Okay, any questions on the FEMA funds?
GT.
That's why we've seen the,
If I could just
oh,
make a comment.
JT, I'm sorry.
On the FEMA funds, I've put in for a number of storms. We've had a record number of storms over the last couple of years since I took over as chief here. I think prior to me starting, we had only done a total of 3 storms through the entire tenure of the program. And I think I'm at number 6 at this point that I've put in for. So, you know, going back to the fire chief being full-time as well, I put about 100 hours into each storm submission that we do. And we've brought, you know, a little over $200,000 just this year in FEMA recovery funds, and that's not something I would be able to do if I wasn't here effectively on a full-time basis with that many hours. So, you know, there is almost a return on investment to having somebody here full-time to manage those types of things. And that doesn't even include other, you know, fire service grants we've gotten over the last couple of years as well.
Which we just received one with, hoses.
Yeah, we just received an assistance to firefighters for a little over $60,000 to replace a bunch of hose and nozzles.
Okay, now, we're on the FEMA funds right now. Everybody, any other questions on the FEMA funds? Pretty good on that?
I just throw in a plug in.
Okay, the next two are the bonds, and what I wanna say on this is, please go to our website, Select Board Recorded Meetings, 128 is the bond public hearing. Everything was discussed, pros, cons on the bonds, the road. Both of these 2 bonds were discussed, so what I wanna do is I wanna make sure that you review that. If you have any questions, bring that to the town meeting with it. And what you'll see here is, I'll start off with the road bond. The select board requested 2.5 million for the road bond. The budget committee did not approve it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you the reasons why the budget committee did not approve it. And I'll start with, one of the reasons was it was a high tax impact. The large interest payback of over $468,000. And 4 to 5 miles of road left after that was done with no funding to do that extra 4 to 5 miles. And then the overlay plan that we have to do starting, which on 15-year roads, we would have to have money to do that. And then the current delinquent taxes that we saw in June was an issue. And we felt there was an economy causing hardship, and it was the wrong time to do it. And I'll ask my budget committee members to add in anything else that you think that I might have missed on that.
No, I think you covered it all.
We,
Steve?
we could not even anticipate any help from the government at all on this, if you know what's going on, if you even turn on the TV and realize what's being cut all over the place, so. It's I consider it a very fractious time right now, and that's why we said to get into this, we'd be in it and we wouldn't know what was gonna happen. A lot of stuff could happen. We decided to err on the side of caution as opposed to, of course, everybody wants all the roads done, but what could happen to us? And that's why we're here, is to speak for you guys. To say, you know, we have to be really cautious with this money. This is a lot of money that we're talking about, and we don't wanna get caught with our pants down on this one, so that's why we came to this.
If the road bond passed at the town meeting, it would use the $250,000 that we currently already have budgeted, so it would be no additional tax impact for that $250,000. We just wouldn't do the Pine River Road dirt work, we would be doing this bond work. And you would, for the first year, pay an additional 47 cents on top of the 35, the school, and the 14 for the fire chief. So everybody, any questions from the public of what you have right there? I really suggest if you have concerns about this, please go to the hearing. The select board had a good feedback, back and forth. Everything is said on that hearing, you can rewind it, you can listen to it, take notes, and then bring anything you have to the town meeting if you have concerns on that. Any other public feedback? Okay, the next one is a safety building addition. The bond for $1 million. The select board and the budget committee approved $1 million bond for the safety building addition. And I'll note on this, this is a 65-cent increase for the first year of the bond. And the reason the committee supported that, because we felt with the presentation done by our fire chief and police chief, was the current police building condition was horrendous. Safety concerns at the fire station, as far as hazardous materials, we all felt that that was a huge issue. There was a more urgent need than the road bond. We felt this was needed to be done more than the road bond. And both police and fire usage was a major driver of our support for that, and the expandability and long-term usage of the building. We felt at this point, sometime we had to do this, and this building is driving us to do something. Unfortunately, it has to be done now. It's been waited too long, and that's pretty much other. Any other budget committee members want to chime in on that?
Just so people know, people are stepping through the floors of the modular. They're falling through. Plus, the police only have one room, which completely makes it impossible to do police work in a area where you have to have confidentiality. As far as the fire chief goes, they don't have a place to shower after they come back from a fire. They're eating in the area where the trucks are and the exhaust is. It's just unconscionable surroundings to try and do work and to be safe. Firemen are at the most risk for cancer now than anybody else in these trades. And we don't wanna exacerbate that problem, so that's why we considered that this was a very important thing to do for both of our departments.
And
I
the
just
other
wanna
thing,
I just
one
wanna
thing
clarify
first.
something.
One thing first, I just want to point out also that there is a PowerPoint presentation in that 128 hearing for that building that covers the police and fire in detail of what we're talking about. So you'll also have that information when you go to that 128 reel.
I just wanna clarify, as far as the building back there, yeah, there was in the past, people falling, those holes in the floor, but from safe, with being on video and stuff. We have plywood done, there is a safety, people are not falling through the floor right now, so from a safety standpoint, it's safe.
It's patched.
Yeah, but it's not gonna last long.
Linda?
Yes. What about the 3 ladies or 4 ladies that are still out back?
Just
Rebecca, and the trustee
Carol.
of the trust funds, Carol. What about them?
Linda, there are no plans right now to relocate that or to do anything. We haven't, this issue does not include the steps ahead to take care of that. That, I believe, can be discussed and possibly brought up on another warrant article to either fix that place up or do something else. But for now, we figured it was more important to get our 2 officers, to get the fire and the police taken care of. They were the
I
ones who-
disagree with that statement. I think they're all important.
They
And
don't,
they've been out there an
But-
awfully long time. Is there any way
Linda, they do not work there every, Linda.
Hold on, one at a time, let her have her question.
could we at least somehow bring them in here?
Can I answer
I'll leave that to the selectmen,
Yeah,
because they made that
it should be a
decision.
selectman question,
The
not a
selectmen
budget.
made that decision, so,
Yeah, it's not a budget question, but yeah, we are looking at down the road. I mean, we're tackling this fire department and police. We understand that it's gotta be demolished, it's gotta go. And we're looking at the future to see something, probably addition onto the back here, I don't know. But we have to have that discussion.
Did you have the discussion that maybe we should spend all this money on here and adding on out back?
Go ahead, Chuck.
The central location of police and fire, more to the center part of town, is strategically the best place to put our emergency services.
Agreed.
Not at the absolute north end of the town, where you're touching the next town over.
We've had the police here for an awfully long
I
time.
understand, Linda, I'm just telling you, long-term, strategically, it's the wrong place. Now, to answer your other question,
Excuse
If we
me,
move- if-
I am not
Hold-
tolerating.
hold on,
it.
hold
Please
on.
do the same.
if it's,
Me too.
if it's a
Please
case,
answer the question, that's all, then Linda, you have a chance to go back. Chuck, go ahead.
there would be an opportunity from a discussion standpoint, I think, as you just said, to consider getting rid of that building out back,
Put that down.
moving those people into this room, reconfiguring this as office space, and doing an addition off the back of this building as a new meeting room.
Right.
And doing parking around the back. Because that would definitely help the scenario of getting rid of that and providing more space here, and providing more meeting space for when we have to do voting and other things.
We're open to suggestions.
Linda?
Yes, this floor I know has been a discussion
We're working on
several,
this.
several times.
Let her have her.
Okay, can you tell me what,
We had a contractor already, we already going out for bids to put a,
Seal it.
what do you call it?
Redo the flooring.
Redo the flooring.
okay,
And we gotta get 2 more bids because it came over to
$15,000.
$15,000, so we're getting 2 more bids in process to do this whole building.
are you gonna tear this up?
No,
And can you tell me why not?
not necessary. For contractors, they said it's not necessary, as long as you cover it and do not disturb it, it's not an issue.
Is, is this,
I'll get you the reports after.
okay. The other question I have is the bathrooms.
Yeah, we're at Chartile. They're, sorry.
No, the bathrooms themselves.
In general.
I mean, for the public to come in here and have to use them is,
Is this, you talking about the women's bathroom or? not?
is really, it isn't saying much for us as a town,
Okay,
okay? I mean, we have bathrooms probably in wherever, the firehouse that are, look better than that. They wanna have it in, well, you know what I'm
I'll show you
saying.
next time.
Yeah, I'll argue with you
Thank you.
All right, that's getting off that, understandable. And your point is well taken on, was gonna still end up with that trailer for a little while. The select board presented to us that they're gonna put up with it a little bit. We're doing what we can afford at a certain point. You've obviously seen a lot of money here with the huge increase that we had. The budget committee had to swallow hard to say that we wanted to add extra funds in here just to do what we did, because we know the impact on us residents. It's huge. We understand that. Every one of us here hears people with stories. I mean, I'm in that office and I hear people come in and saying they can't pay their taxes. I'm in there when that happens.
I'm sure.
I understand that, so, I mean, we had to say at a certain point and agree with the select board, we do what we can do, what we can afford at a certain time, and we all felt on the budget committee, this was the time, we've left it go long enough, and understandable at some time, and I agree with you 100%, Linda, something's gonna have to be done with that, but not this year, because we just don't have the money to do more. For that small amount of usage, we felt as a budget committee that they could handle that small amount of usage they were using on that one side of the building until time, and we agreed with the select board's assessment of that.
Can I jump
Yeah.
in? And I'm looking, Linda, we would look for suggestions down the road. You know, when we come to that point, I got 2 more years, so. Shit.
2 more years. Okay.
Dave.
Sorry, Jen? Oh, Susan?
I was at the meeting on the 28th, and on the public safety building, there were still, during that discussion, there were still a lot of unknowns, and cost
That
and,
was my question.
oh, cool. So I just,
Get a 2-for-1?
you know, is that being
Is
fleshed?
that what your question is?
Yes.
Yes, that's my question. Do we know more? I mean, is $1 million gonna?
So the budget committee approved, it based on the estimates that they had and what we heard at the meeting. JT, you got more with that?
Yeah, so I've been communicating with Mike Polkowski, who's kind of our project
Yeah.
manager at this point. From my understanding, he's waiting on one last quote for materials. And as soon as he has that quote, he can put the full package together with the numbers. As soon as we have that, we're gonna do additional public meetings so that we can share the full budget for the project with you.
So.
JT, do you have anything additional on the grants or anything that was requested at the public hearing?
Not at this point, but some grants were brought forward at the hearing. So we're also gonna look at some grants that might cover things like the heating system and some of the electrical work and stuff like that. So that would be a help to offset some costs as well.
But if we're voting on $1 million, I mean, that's what we'll be voting on, right? $1 million, no matter what additional information.
They can't spend over $1 million.
Right, so is that going to be adequate enough to open a building that will do the job?
We feel confident, and when I say we, I'm talking about myself, Chief Eldridge, and Mike Polkowski, feel confident that it will be enough funding. And if the quotes are coming in higher than that million, we're gonna go back to the drawing boards as far as we might go back to the metal building instead, which will cut the cost significantly. Or we may have to redesign the current building to change it around to make it fit that $1 million. So regardless, that $1 million budget is gonna be what we work within, one way or another, to make it fit.
What is your expected deadline to make that decision?
I mean, when we get the quotes back from Mike, hopefully within the next week or so, we should know what we're looking at for our costs, and then we can make a decision if we need to go back to the drawing boards or if we proceed where we're at.
We've been communicating with Mike pretty much weekly, working with him to see where he's at with all this stuff, so it's just more or less
Okay.
just waiting for stuff.
Lawrence?
Was there an RFP put out for the building?
We did not see an RFP. We saw the estimate of the cost, estimates the same as you at the 128 hearing. And they're putting together estimates together right now. JT had just detailed that.
Should it be approved, it will all go out to bid.
And initially, we were thinking steel building, so we did solicit bids from steel building and metal building companies. So yes, there was, on the onset, there was.
For a steel building.
The RFP was just for a steel building.
Correct. And there was concerns about,
Moisture.
I don't wanna talk.
I didn't hear you, Chris.
I don't wanna talk out of turn.
No, go ahead, you're fine.
There were concerns about moisture mitigation when you have a steel outside structure and how you would mitigate the moisture issues. One of the vendors that we get a price from for under $150 for the building with metal and steel. This type of building, this type of structure, just to put people's mind at ease, because I'm watching people's body language. One of these buildings, it's steel on the outside, it's wood frame, it's wood timbers. It's a Lester building, that's one of the companies we did look at, and they do hobbies, they do barns, they do barndominiums, which are homes. There are ways of mitigating the moisture issues. To JT's point, that if stick built is not cost effective and we have to go back to the other one, that doesn't mean we're gonna get a subsidized building. There are ways to mitigate the moisture concerns, so.
The way the budget committee looked at that, we looked at the estimates from the slideshow, everything, we felt comfortable with the amounts. If for some reason it comes back, and I believe we all felt that, if it comes back and they say they can't do it within the allotted amount, we don't spend the bond. Either fit it in for $1 million or you're not having a building. You have to have a special hearing to go out and go for a different bond. So, I felt comfortable with everything that our fire chief and police chief put out there on the building with their consultant, Mike, who was giving the numbers and everything that we saw for estimates. And I believe the budget committee members felt the same thing, is that correct?
For a wooden building, right?
Yeah, for no more than $1 million.
For a wooden building.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
If I may, when
Tyler?
when you say wooden, like the walls are gonna be more or less panelized, built off site, transported in and then put up, so it's, ways to be cost effective in that, they're not gonna be hauling in just truckloads of woods, building everything on site, the walls will be panelized, built off site, and then
Yeah,
and then brought in, it's ways to be cost effective when still going for a traditional stick built, if you wanna say that.
Linda?
Go ahead, Tim.
Oh, Lawrence.
Does this include the driveway to get to the back of this building and the
Yes.
parking area in the front?
Parking area in the front
All
was,
the construction work that needs to be done.
that was in that presentation to us. The parking lot was included,
No pavement though, right?
correct. Linda?
In his presentation that we were at here, you mentioned maybe that monument might have to be removed. Why is that?
That will effectively be the front parking lot of the building, where that monument sits currently.
Who would take it upon themselves? I mean, shouldn't we all have a vote in this? On that monument? And what is there?
So if the monument was taken apart, it would be moved elsewhere on the property and set up in a similar fashion, so we
Where
wouldn't
would
like get rid of it.
elsewhere be?
We would have to determine that based on the site plan.
Because a lot of people put a lot of hard work, energy,
Oh, absolutely.
everything into that. And it's been there a good many years.
We absolutely would not take it down, it would just be being moved to another spot on the property.
And with that price, if you had to have it done, be included in that million?
Yes.
So with that question that I just heard, then for the fire chief, it's probably prudent to have some input of where you're gonna be putting it.
Yeah,
I take it that's what you want, Linda, is the public has some input of where you wanna put it.
and that would be included in that million. And you, by town meeting, would have some kind of idea, if you really had to move it, how much it would be?
Yes.
Any other questions on the safety building? All right, and we move,
One more
Lawrence,
thing I'd like to
sure,
say.
go for it.
In 2016, the three, I was one of the selectmen, there was two others.
Oh, 16, I'm sorry,
We
yeah.
went through the buildings that the town owned, and I wrote up a report. In that module out there was no rot in that floor. That module is about 4 feet off the ground. Now, somebody dropped the ball and just let that water run in on that floor and rot that floor. I wrote a report, in that report, there was no rot, and the only rot there was the door, with the metal door and had some rust in the bottom.
I can't answer.
I can't, I mean, I know a couple years ago, didn't somebody come in and fix the roof?
But yeah, we had massive leaks in the fire department roof and they had to fix
They're
that.
talking about the Montrose.
I'm like,
How old are the trailers? At least how old are they?
They're older than you.
Well, that isn't too hard, that's not too hard.
We came up with nearly 40 years.
39.
I mean,
But to answer Lawrence's
the fact
question,
they're
does
still
anybody know
standing,
that?
you've got your money's worth out.
Anybody know if there was some maintenance missed on the building?
Well,
That's
you
your
said a
question, right,
roof
Lawrence?
leak.
Was there maintenance missed on the building?
The roof did leak, but as soon as we discovered the leak, we fixed it. Linda, that was, by then it had come down through the ceiling panels, so I don't know if it had been leaking up in the roof before that, but as soon as it came down through the ceiling panels, we fixed it.
Do you know anything, Tyler?
As far as it's nothing, there's been no major maintenance done
That's
in
true.
my time here.
What you think might have happened to the floor? No.
It's a leak, it's basically looked like it came down the wall as you walk into the side of the building.
It's,
And you go to the left, into the zoning and that type of office, you can see that whole area. I had to replace boards as you walk out the door into that floorboard, so.
Chris, you got something?
Yeah, we're focusing a lot on the lack of maintenance and, the floor, was not rotten and it was assessed in 2016, almost 10 years ago. It's about the fact that it may have been adequate space at that time in 2016, it's not 2016 anymore, it's 2025. It's a one-room police station. We have outgrown the space, it was adequate, it actually wasn't adequate for a police department then. It was our only option. Our police station used to be at one point in time for a year and a half, 2 years, was in the second floor of fire station number 1. which was absolutely not inadequate. You know, 20 years ago, we had a constable still. So, I mean, it's time, you know, we can't,
21st century.
Linda?
I always fall back to my pot roast thing. Why do you cut an inch of the pot roast off from
Alright,
that?
Linda?
Well, back to my point, I hear that about the rot, about we've outgrown. We've outgrown this.
Fine, no argument.
We have outgrown this, so I wish people would kind of keep that in mind too.
It is an
Alright,
argument.
and I'll get us back on focus, we're talking about the fire safety building addition. I mean, obviously, any select board meeting, the public can show up and share their opinion of where they want them to go at any time. So, for this hearing right here, we're focusing on the safety building addition. Is there any other questions on the safety building? Okay, we got a couple more things to go through, it's gonna take a little bit. Alright, I want you to please turn to page 47. And again, with these same articles, there's draft wording in the back. It may be a little different than what you'll see in the warrant article. I'll reiterate that again. But the amounts and where they come from will not change after this meeting, unless we change it. Alright, so 4915, page 47. We've all seen this. Fire truck and equipment, capital reserve fund. We have $10,000, the budget committee and select board approved, coming from taxation. Is there any questions on that warrant article? Okay, so now we go to Parsonsfield Mutual Aid. This is the one where we end up giving them some equipment they buy from our department, we get a reimbursement back. And then we put
No.
Parsonsfield?
Mutual aid agreement.
Mutual aid agreement, excuse me, for 2,000. Any questions on that, Parsonsfield? Then you have a transfer station recycling that we end up putting into the trust fund, which is gonna be coming from the unassigned fund balance. Excuse me, for $2,000, select board and budget committee approved. Any questions on that? That's just to help us with the compactor and a few things. And then the police cruiser, that's the amount that we put in, that we replace the cars. $15,000 from taxation. Any questions on any of those? And again, I'll reiterate, the wording is just draft. But it's pretty close.
I have a question.
Ms. Fuller,
Just comparing the fire trucks and the police cruisers, it seems like it's cost a little bit more. Is this adequate to put just 10,000 a year in for, I know right now we're refurbishing.
I'll answer that.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Is that adequate? So 10.
It's not adequate, we know it's not adequate, we know that when we're gonna have to replace a fire truck, the budget committee is fully aware, as well as the select board and the fire department, that if we ever have to get a new engine, we're gonna have to do a bond, and we're gonna have to be creative with this to get the funds in. We just don't have the amount of money that we can put into it, plus also try to put in some of the trust funds, your bridges and everything else. We just don't have that amount of money. For this fire truck, and the chief has talked about it at meetings with us, and we knew this back when the other chief was there, we iterated that at other meetings, that you need a grant, you gotta buy a used one, or someone has to gift us one.
Oh, we rebuilt, like we're doing right now, rebuilt the pumper.
Right, it just seems.
Or we roll one over.
15,000, maybe 15,000 a piece.
Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. If it happened to get in an accident, we could have a possibility of replacement.
Giant bake sale.
JT?
There we go.
Yeah, so basically right now, the intent of this fund is gonna be to replace smaller vehicles, forestry trucks, the command vehicles, stuff like that. And for the bigger trucks, the goal is to continue with the refurbishment program and keep them refurbished so we can extend that lifespan, effectively doubling the life of the trucks. Do that for as long as we can, but Dave is absolutely right. Ospey Corner just bought a new no-frills fire engine and it was $1.1 million.
Oh, wow.
So
And you're
that's,
getting a whole building for that.
that's what we're looking at for your everyday fire truck.
Maybe we're gonna put some wheels on it, throw a hose on it.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions on 4915 Capital Reserve Fund. Hearing none, we'll turn to page 49. This is your expendable trust fund. Everybody on page 49, and again, it's the same thing with the wording. Everybody's good with that, I won't go over that again. So the first one is bridge maintenance. We're putting 2,000 from the unassigned fund balance. Any questions on the bridge maintenance? Don't hear any. Computer network and equipment, 2,000 from the unassigned fund balance. And when I say from unassigned fund balance, I hope everybody knows this doesn't, no increase to your taxes. This is additional funds that we found that we can take and feel comfortable taking out of the unassigned fund balance. Okay, no questions on that. The next one is fire department equipment. 15,000, of which 2,000 is from the unassigned fund balance. And the reason that increased is because the chief came to us with what he wanted for extra equipment. It's one of the reasons you saw the fire truck go down from the request. He added it on to this line item. That's why you saw us drop down to 10,000 on the fire truck. He has some equipment that he's gonna be buying, so he wanted to take that money and put it into this fund in order to do that this coming year. Did I get that right, JT?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, the next warrant article, you will see emergency management generator replacement for $1,000. We just, luckily, our fire chief was able to get insurance to replace the generator at the fire department. So that helps us, it's a brand new one. So now we have the one at the school, which is very expensive, and the one here.
The one at the fire station was what, 20?
It was right about 20,000, and that's actually a 50 kW, which is the same as what's at the school, so.
Any questions on that?
Linda.
Linda?
Just wondering if anyone has approached the school district about the generator at the school, ever.
Chris?
Yes, the fire chief and myself have attended several building committee meetings with the school district to discuss that. They were actually recently, per our request and per those conversations, upgrading the electrical that now encompasses when the generator comes on, bathroom lights come on, more outlets come on, they're not running extension cords because it was inadequate. Those were all things that were identified during the April snowstorm when that became a shelter. We realized there were some issues and we attended some building committee meetings and
So have they ever mentioned that they should be buying the generator?
no, and they will not. They pretty much flat out said no. They do provide, it's an agreement. So the agreement is we provide the generator, they provide the propane for that, and it is our emergency, one of our emergency shelters in exchange.
Okay.
And on the generator, to be clear, it only powers the parts of the school we use for the shelter. It actually doesn't power most of the classrooms or anything like that. Really, the only thing it powers that benefits them is their coolers. So,
I was just concerned that if the power goes off there and they, what do they do with the students?
send them home. Yeah.
Okay, right now, we currently have a little over 30,000 in the fund, we're putting funds in. And we have the generators maintenance every year, and that was in the previous one, in the emergency management, so those do get taken care of. Any other questions on the emergency management generator replacement? The next one is municipal building repair, that's common, 10,000 out of taxes from select board and budget committee approved. That takes care of any buildings. Currently, we have 90,000 in the fund. We know we're gonna end up doing some roofs. We know we got some major work coming up. So we'll be depleting that and then looking to replenish some of those funds as we can see fit in the next years. Pretty good on that. Next one is police safety gear, 2,000 coming out of the unassigned fund balance, so no tax impact on that. Budget committee and select board approved 2,000. Any questions on that? That's the one we get the vest from and other equipment. Town hall repair and restoration. This is a pretty common one you see every year, 10,000. This is for the historic town hall. 10,000 budget committee, select board approved. And the next one is invasive aquatic plant, coming from the unassigned fund balance for 1,000 for select board and budget committee approved. Currently have 18,825 in that fund. And the next one is library equipment for $687, select board and budget committee approved. That's to get us back up to, they have, an expected, replacement this year that'll take a large portion of the, ETF. So we're replacing what they used. Any questions on that? And again, the wording is just draft. And I hate to tell you, but we're at the last page. All right, at this point in the hearing, we'll ask, is there any other questions for the budget committee? Ruth?
How many taxpayers do we have in town now?
Well, I think it's like 1,700.
1,700.
Yeah, in that ballpark, Ruth. And maybe 1,500 houses. I don't know how many houses.
No, it's not 50.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding on that one.
You're on tape.
Any other questions? Okay, so, it is let me get this right. 7:17, there's no other further questions, I'll call the public hearing to an end. Everybody good? All right, formally close at 7:17, the budget committee public hearing. You're welcome to stay if you want. The budget committee now, because everything is all done, nothing changed on the prices, that's exactly what you're gonna see at the town meeting, those numbers. And all we're gonna do is go into administrative, as far as getting the forms ready for the state. Stay if you desire to watch us fill out forms. It's your choice.
Leave the cookies, chief.
Anybody need to use the restroom or anything, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
5-minute break.
Yep.
Check the girls' bathroom.
Yeah, check that out for me. I never went in there.
I know, yeah. Sit that Oh, really? No. You gotta go.
No, it's another Chris.
Some additional information.
No, yeah.
Yes, you, I mean, I think we know. And then, you wanna take this with you if you want, because you have it, we asked you. There are rating sheets. No, that's fine. You want those?
Sure, yeah. Because I got them somewhere, but they're amidst of other.
It's just someone forward to one meeting.
Yeah.
So you have them.
I also have the 2024 profit and loss tax draft too. In my. You know what?
So remember, on that bond. But I just went over.
No, just like the guys, so that's how, so like, we're not sitting there dancing.
I don't know if you put
He's back now.
See the way we.
Oh, here it is. We we're about, what was that there,
4901, come back this way.
And then they'll call us.
Let's hope we get a good turnout in town.
That falls right in the answer to there.
and this is 4/5.
4 to 5.
I don't know.
What are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Go on and then leave that amount left to do, so how we gonna do it? What are we gonna do?
Good thing is, when
So, the best thing we could do, the best thing we could do, yes. Hey, Jeff, did you pick, she must have seen it, she must have happened. He told that guy, and they poured water on it, he told that guy to sit here and just keep pounding in those areas. But you could bring her around that area.
I'm sorry. Doesn't make sense.
I don't have to.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Up until 13.
No.
Where's Rose?
Early in the ladies' room in the library.
Lauren, what'd you do with Rose?
She's out having a cigarette.
No, I didn't.
Huh?
That's me.
No, she's out having a cigarette because he says you get to do it all the time.
What I've seen, you smoked before, that was many, if we're not. If we're not. But if we're on.
Most of us did.
I was gonna say.
Then we'll start talking about that.
You alive? You okay?
No, Dave.
Text her, will ya?
I didn't want to say too much there, but I thought I'd say it. I didn't want to.
Yes.
When we had that desk conference,
Quiet old man, listen.
Oh, yeah.
all with me.
No, you don't want him.
So the one part we once the police moved by, there was the other stores.
David, how long do you think we're gonna be?
I think it'll determine if we wanna be any longer, because I think that we can move to the winter if we want.
I know that I can't speak for everybody, I had something come up at the house, my wife kind of put me sooner rather than later, if that's possible, but not.
You know, as soon as we get Rose in here, we'll decide the minimum.
Please, thank you.
Hey, if anybody has any conversation, if you could take it out, please, we're gonna continue our hearing, I appreciate, it would be appreciated.
Hurry up, grab the cookies.
Rose out there?
Is the town gonna pay for his certification so he can watch the roads?
What we're gonna
Can we
donate?
get him out of retirement? Can the town pay for his
Hey
certification?
Chuck, is Rose right there?
I don't see her.
Maybe she went in the bathroom. I don't know.
That's
She was right there.
You okay?
She was probably talking before she went in the bathroom.
Wet, so
Oh,
I told you, that happened, just.
well, that's okay.
She's tied me up in tractor supply for a good hour.
She was binder, and then she went in the bathroom.
Oh,
Thought it was a Bible.
all right.
put it back in the hotel.
Rose, where are you?
You know, in all my travels, especially the last couple of years between here in the East and the West Coast, I think in hotels I've seen more Books of Mormon than I have Bibles. It's been crazy.
Really?
Yep.
Okay, guys,
Oh, well.
we gotta decide at this point. Oh, okay.
Finally.
All right, everybody clap.
Been an hour.
Thank you for coming back, thank you. That's all right, we all have time that we'll lose forever.
Alright, now we're gonna decide where we go for far as, it's almost 7:30. So what we have left to do is, we have the 7:37 to finalize, and some adjustments we gotta make on it. Alright? And it's mostly admin stuff from now on, just getting us prepared. Do you wanna take that other 40 minutes or an hour that we have to do this, or do we wanna hold it off till Wednesday of next week? We have that scheduled already.
And if we do this tonight, we don't have to be here next Wednesday?
I can't say that would be a fact, it depends on how we do when we go through.
I wanna hear yes.
And when we go through everything, I can't guarantee that that would be true, but do you wanna spend the
I'm all
other
for doing
40 to
as much as
45
we
minutes
can.
of, just gonna be admin, Chris, you don't have to hang if you don't want, it's up to you. But do you guys wanna start going through this 7:40%?
Cody wants to leave.
Get it done.
I'll do whatever the group says.
I have no problem going
No,
through.
my wife won't kill me, but she might.
Do you guys wanna,
I say let's come back next Wednesday. That's my vote.
I'm okay with next Wednesday if everyone else is.
Vicky?
If not, I'll stay.
I'm okay with next Wednesday. We'll probably have a clearer mind.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
Now we get his calendar.
alright,
Empty your mind.
What time next Wednesday?
6 o'clock next Wednesday.
Yeah, hopefully it'll snow.
6 o'clock next Wednesday, please bring your answer sheet,
I don't
bring
want
your
Cody,
MS 737, and your budget package with you.
I don't want Cody to get killed.
And we'll finalize the 737, and when we get done with it, then what we'll do is set some times by calling up Caitlin and just come in and signing it, we'll verify, we'll make sure our sheet matches what she's gonna be showing us to sign.
Yep.
Everybody good with that?
Yep.
Okay. So, and the other thing that we'll go over is the closeout of the budget year of how we're gonna do the next meeting for after the town meeting. You have to set that budget date, we'll go through all that stuff. We'll go through how we close out the files in the computer and how we reconcile as far as the other numbers. We'll go through all that stuff.
Yeah, we'll do
in the
that next
close out.
Wednesday, not tonight, I'm fucking, mine.
Yeah, your mind goes crazy.
Everybody okay with that? We'll do all that.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay, so I'll make a motion
Second.
The school administrator.
to adjourn at 7:28. All those in favor signify aye and nay.
I've seen that.
Requity,
Like you should have been the
Isn't that
first.
guy?
Tony Wells,
Regal aye.
Strauss aye. All right, so we'll plan on next Wednesday at 6 o'clock, and we'll just do the finalized closeout of the year, the admin part of it.
Yep.
There's gonna be no changes can be done at all to any of the budget things, because we closed the public hearing. So
Yep.
what it is what it is.
Who seconded that?
Leo, I thought.
No, Steve did.
Steve did?
I seconded.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
I said second.
Yep.